What do you think was so special to you about France?
Well, I think maybe I always felt freer there. I think I would have liked to have grown up in France in some ways.
In 1973, Ian Gibbons and wife Barbara took a break from studying the motor protein dynein at the University of Hawaii's Marine Lab. They went with their children to France on sabbatical.
It was a year that left a large impression on all of us as a family because it was such a wonderful year.
It was transformative, I think, yeah. I was 10 or 11, and so really quickly just started picking up French, and I think it made me realize what my mind could do, which was actually kind of an intellectual awakening for me.
As kids, Peter and Wendy grew up with music.
Pete, do you remember the folk songs?
Yeah. Well, the Irish Washerwoman and all of those, yes.
So I took piano lessons. And Dad, this was pretty much Dad's thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my mom would play the piano, or sometimes I would, and we would sing folk songs.
Yeah.
We had a book of folk songs
sing along.
as a family.
Barbara was a serious musician, part of chamber music groups in Hawaii and then in the Bay Area. And as a family, the Gibbons would hike and camp.
We would spend about 4 weeks camped up in the Sierras. We wanted a break from Hawaii. We wanted to be somewhere cool for the summer.
The real break from Hawaii came in 1997. Ian and Barbara moved to the San Francisco Bay Area. Barbara left science. Ian continued at Berkeley in Beth Burnside's lab.
He wanted to move to the Bay Area because his kids lived here. And so he contacted me and asked if there was any way he could work in my lab. And I was thrilled at the possibility because he'd always been one of my science heroes.
That led to collaborations with Ron Vale. The two had first worked together on a paper in the late 1980s in Hawaii. There were 2 more papers in the Bay Area.
The one in Journal of Biological Chemistry, Ian was first author, and was a really important paper because it proposed, with data, a very important model about how dynein works.
These collaborations with Ron's lab have been really very, very helpful to me since I was in this semi-retired status. Because when I retired from Hawaii, I no longer had a big research team. I had one person working with me most of that time, Joan Garbarino, who brought me up to date in the new procedures in molecular biology and taught me those as her student while she was in my lab.
I answered an ad, and I guess when I said, let's do some science, he thought that was good. And so I ended up working with him for quite a long time. It was very satisfying, actually, toward the end when it kind of wrapped up in the big paper that we did with the Vale Lab, because Ian had been working on dynein for so long that it was very satisfying that we were able to actually get some of the structure of the molecule itself.
He's just a really strong person, and his personality is just very, very strong and very persistent. He just really does not give up on stuff, and I think one kind of way that we've seen that recently that's actually outside of the lab was when he was taking care of my mom when she had Parkinson's, because she had Parkinson's for, what was it, like
8 years.
Longer than that. Like
Well, it was longer, yeah.
14 years.
Barbara, for you.
We had 50 years together before she died of Parkinson's.
So basically, they have this peptide series.
Ron Vale's lab near downtown San Francisco has gone beyond motor protein work.
I want to learn how the intestine maintains itself during adulthood.
But has not left it behind, certainly not dynein. Wang Yuxiao is studying how dynein works in T cells, cells that fight disease, including cancer.
How dynein have this awareness of the state of the cell and determine basically what cargo to load and when to load the cargo, and does it drive fast or slow, and does it stop? why all these tiny molecules, they all congregate or cluster at one area, and what is going on in that one focal point. We know the tracks all lead there. I don't know what they are doing there. So that is a fascinating question we are trying to figure out.
And there remain basic questions about how dynein walks along microtubules.
And it's very important that it coordinates its stepping so that only one leg detaches at a time, because otherwise the motor would lose contact to the track and then would not be able to carry the cargo to where it's supposed to go. Back as an undergrad in Germany, I was studying physics, but then for summer school I was preparing for a motor seminar session, and I watched the videos from Ron on iBiology about motor proteins, which really got me very excited about biophysics.
So in the microtubule world, there are two main types of cytoskeletal motors. One are...
Ron started iBiology lectures about 10 years ago. Too much expert knowledge was being lost, he says, when elite scientists spoke only to other elite scientists.
It just felt like there has to be a better way of doing it. There has to be ways of democratizing knowledge, so it's not really cloistered within elite institutions.
There are now some 500 of these presentations on YouTube.
Climate change is probably the defining challenge of the 21st century.
And they can be seen on the mainland.
They've started their own program called iBio China, and they're reposting, with our encouragement, these videos on WeChat and making it accessible through other vehicles there.
And so the fact that your skin tests positive doesn't mean you have TB infection now. It means
it's really some of the best scientists in the world, Nobel Prize winners, members of the National Academy of Sciences, you know, the Royal Society, etc.
Yes. Heart beating, good.
I think his dream is to make science accessible to anyone who wants it, to have the scientists tell their stories and their science in a way that's understandable. Some of his outreach is geared toward people that he knows have never had the opportunities or the resources that he has to do science.
Ron chose India for a 9-month sabbatical in 2007.
It struck me at India, maybe there are a few things that I could do personally that would actually be useful and helpful. I was working in a lab of Dr. Jitu Mayer there, and we've had a long-lasting science collaboration since. I set up with colleagues at National Center for Biological Sciences a course in microscopy of sufficient quality that people would come from the US and Europe to take that course. It's now, I think, in its 9th year.
There is also an annual event called the Young Investigators Meeting.
The spirit of this meeting was really to think about the next generation of scientific leaders in India, mainly young scientists. Bring them together for about a 5-day meeting. Also bring Indian postdocs. So these are individuals who've gone through a lot of training and now are poised to start their own independent laboratories.
Ron himself had an opportunity early in life to get a flying start at a career in science. He grew up in Hollywood, California.
I had a wonderful high school counselor who helped get me into a biology lab when I was in high school. So I worked in a biology lab at UCLA as a high school student, doing my own project, which was amazing.
Now he says his time is split between the work in his lab and science education farther afield. There remains time for exercise outside his back door in Marin County.
Marin is really one of the most spectacular places in the sense that it has so much beautiful protected wilderness and open space in such close proximity to a major city. I take advantage over the weekend just by hiking, trail running, mountain biking. These are things I like to do for fun, and they're very close when you're living in Marin.
And he's close enough to visit old friends.
I would just say sharing the Shaw Prize together is really a great culmination of a wonderful friendship for many, many years. The fact that I could break this news to, my great friend Ian was also made this whole experience very special to me.
It's been a wonderful experience. I think I'm very happy, certainly, to be honoured by the recognition of this prize, and I think it's very appropriate that it been recognised as the importance of molecular motor proteins and in the cell, in so many things that they do in the cell, the many roles they play in human health and problems of human health.
These two motors collaborate inside the cell, and we've collaborated together as scientists, so maybe there's something fitting in all of this.
Absolutely.